Welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews, the only show that's going to teach you
how to be somebody.
Where in your life did you learn that you're not good enough?
Take what you're most passionate about and what you're most fearful of, and what is the plan to overcome that fear, and what is the plan to enact that passion.
Welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews. I am your host, AJ Armstrong. You can follow me on Instagram at AaronArmstrong33. That's AaronArmstrong33. Or you can go to my website, AaronJArmstrong.com. Well, it's been a while since we really got, back into the swing of things. So for those of you that followed along on our journey on the social platforms, Marissa and I went on a little family vacation to Scandinavian countries. Okay, so this was a pretty incredible trip, I must say. If you haven't been there before, you should check it out. It's really cool. So the different countries we went to: Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Russia, Germany, Norway, Estonia, all incredible places to go. And it's like one of those trips that you might not, it's not super mainstream. It's not like a bucket list item, which is why I thought it was really cool to go. It's like, when else are you going to go up there? And it was just a beautiful area, great people, fascinating culture, brushing up on your European history and just learning about the different wars that had taken place and the Viking culture and how everything's travelable by sea. It just kind of, when you go to these different places and we talk about being cultured, and it's like, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to be cultured? Well, it means to experience something different than what you're used to so that you kind of grow in a new capacity. And that's kind of what being cultured means to me. It's like you start to see these different customs and courtesies that these other countries live like, and you can almost put yourself in their shoes and see if it's worth adopting in your own practices. And it's really just so cool to see these different areas. I mean, one of my favorite places on the trip was Estonia, which, like I said, my ignorant ass had no idea was a country because, that's just me being terrible at European geography until I went on this cruise. And Tallinn was the town we visited in Estonia. And it was not so the way the city was is it was used as a naval hub during the Russian-Sweden wars. And it was just always fought at sea. So what happened was, during the medieval times, none of the land was conquered, and all of this medieval architecture was completely preserved. It was just so cool. So you thought you were walking back in time to like 1000 AD or 1200 AD, and you see these big cathedrals and these buildings all preserved. All the architecture from the medieval times were preserved. And you guys know most of Europe was just like run over a million times through different battles and wars and all this stuff over history. So you didn't really see how they used to live. Everything was kind of tarnished through the different wars throughout this 20th century, etc. Well, anyway, the trip was totally a success, and it just goes back to my personal belief that get out into the world. My rule is see a different state once a month. Once a month, see a different state if you're in the U.S., and try to see a country at least, a new country at least once a year. That's just my rule. So it's like, if you do more than that, that's awesome. If you do less than that, make sure it's leveling out to where you're seeing at least one country a year and one state a month. And it's just gets you out, gets you doing something, gets you experiencing something different. Because I'm telling you, when you're stuck in that grind, sometimes you just need that kick in the pants to really get going. And for me, it just like totally cleared up a lot of writer's block. So I'm writing a book right now, and I was just getting stuck. I didn't know where I wanted to go with it. And it's just experiencing something new and watching people and observing and reflecting on your thoughts and just not thinking about work makes you the most productive. And it's ironic how that works. So that's a little recap on the European cruise that we went on. Went on Princess Lines, recommend it. It was awesome, way better than my Carnival experience, even though I think they're owned by the same company. I'm not positive on that, but I think Carnival owns Princess, but Princess is like a little higher end cruise. But it was just awesome. I had a great time. People were just tremendous. And they work hard on those ships, man. You got to tip them well. I just so believe in tipping well when people deserve the work. It's just something that just means a lot to them. And it's just crazy how like some of these, foreign nationals don't really expect tips the way Americans do. We were in Europe, and I don't know if it was Germany thing or if it's a European thing or whatever, but like the tips don't come on when you pay with card. Your tip doesn't, there's not like a spot where you can write the tip in. It's just nothing. So it's like you just pay and you leave. And I was like so awkward. So I went up and I was like, hey, can I add a tip to this? And they're just like so thankful. They're like, oh my gosh, really? Yeah. And then I tipped 20% or something. And they're like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And I was just like, why are people so thankful for this? And I come to find out like custom tipping there is like 5%. I was sitting here tipping 20% like you normally do in America. And people are just so appreciative for it. So whatever, it's more money to go around, but just fascinating culture, guys. Really recommend getting out there and doing stuff. And for those of you that have been following along and listening to this podcast, you know that we're offering that type of experience down in the Caribbean and in the island of St. Lucia, coming up with our personal growth ventures. If you want to hear more about that, go to personalgrowthventures.com. And it's going to be another one of those traveling business vacations that you guys are like, business vacation, how does that work? Well, I'm going to show you how that works. And you can go to personalgrowthventures.com and get more information. And I just finished up the ebook for that, which is going to be the giveaway that we're going to give you at the actual retreat. So signed up another client this week. It was just an awesome week, and I'm really excited to get back in the swing of things. So while I was away, I had some notes for what I wanted to talk to you guys about. And one of the things I kept wrestling with is most of the time is I'm getting some feedback from people, and I don't know, you know how people are. They just sit there and they want to hate on you and they want to call you out and they want to do all this different stuff. And they're just like, it's just this dichotomy between this entrepreneur or like this corporate person. And it's like they just hate each other. And I just don't get it. It just makes no sense to me. Absolutely no sense to me. And they're like, well, you're giving contradicting guidance. You're like, you're a traitor. Because I made a post about being a corporatepreneur and people are like, you're a traitor. What are you talking about? You're a very good corporatepreneur. You're confusing everybody. I'm like, no. Okay, let me explain. I'm going on the record right now to explain what this is. Every single person out there, when I'm assessing my clients and when I'm giving someone a free coaching call, when I'm giving a buddy advice, anytime I am trying to put someone in the best position to be successful, I am assessing 3 things before I deliver advice. All of my advice is custom. So when I try to give you blanket advice on social media or even on this podcast, I'm seeding it out there so you can take what's applicable to you and you can leave behind what's not applicable to you. And I'm doing my best. There's not a specific strategy that works for everybody. I don't care what anyone else on these stupid social medias is giving you. They're saying this, whatever strategy they want to go. It's like, oh, this works for everybody. Here, sign up for my course, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, you can sign up for the course and give some blanket advice, but there's very specific things that need to be tailored to the individual. So when I'm talking to an individual, and if I were to talk to you guys right now today, I'm going to assess 3 things before I start to deliver advice. So if you guys jump on a coaching call with me, usually what happens is like 80% of me listening to everything that you're doing. I want to listen. I want to learn more. And I'm going to ask a ton of questions because I'm trying to pinpoint exactly where you are on these 3 questions. So if you guys run a coaching business, if you're a leader in a company and you want to figure out how you can orient your team with their goals more, these are the types of things you want to look at when you're trying to coach somebody. The first thing I'm looking at is your goals, AKA what I'm assessing is your ambition level, because ambition levels definitely change. And the fact that you guys are listening to this podcast means that you probably have relatively high ambition levels, which is good. You want to have those high ambition levels. But what I'm looking at is what is like your level of awareness. And for those of you that have listened before, I talk about 5 levels of awareness that happen. There's levels 1 through 5, and I'm not going to go over those in detail, but basically what it is level 1 is you're unaware of a solution, and you're unaware if there's a problem, and you're unaware there's a solution. So I know a lot of people live their life this way. I don't know if it's most people, but it's definitely a lot of people, and you can think about it. They just go through life, and it just is how it is. There's nothing you can really do about it. This is just the way it goes, and this is it. And I'm not really going to complain about it, but I'm just going to live this way, and I'm just going to die. A handful of people live their life that way. Level number 2 is they're aware that there's a problem, but they're unaware that there's a solution. I would say most people I encounter are in this place. They're unaware of a solution, but they're aware of the problem. So these are the people that watch the news all the time. They just totally buy into the problems, the propaganda, the stories, the this, the that, the media, all this crap. And then there's no solution to it. Every time you bring up a solution, it's just like, oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, you can't do that. That can't happen. That can't happen. So the only way to persuade those types of people into a solution is to share with them stories, very relatable stories. Someone that was in this position, true story, turned out to do this. that's the best way to persuade those types of people. So if you see things in like story marketing, that they're very persuasive, you can share with movies or books or anything like that. So you guys know that one of my big dreams is to become like a big time filmmaker someday, right? So one of the things I like to do is try to persuade with creative storytelling. When I go to if you come to my speeches or one of my speaking events or whatever, I tell a lot of stories, so I can try to bring people into a place and they can picture themselves as the character, or they can picture the person they're trying to help as the character, and they can go through that. That's the target level 2. Level 3 is people that are aware there's a solution, they're aware there's a problem, but they just don't necessarily know what the solution is. So they're kind of searching. They're in this like search, and that's in that hero's journey. That's when they're kind of like waking up. You could say those are the people that are woke, if you want to say what the mainstream people are all talking about, right? They're woke. Like, he's totally woke. He knows the government's a conspiracy, man. It's like, I don't believe in all the conspiracies. I like to entertain them because they're fun to think about. And but yeah, anyway, those are people that are woke, like level 3. Like, dude, there's a problem, and there's solutions out there. No idea what they are. And that's where the people that benefit me to market to. It's like, okay, there's a problem. There is a way to make more money in your life. You just don't know what it is. It might be real estate. It might be investing. It might be starting your own business. It might be going all in on my job. It might be, having a family, whatever you want to do, right? And then that's kind of where you talk to people. So what I'm trying to do when I'm talking to them is I'm assessing where their awareness level is at, really. That's what I'm looking at. And I'm trying to figure out where their goals and ambitions are. Because if they're like a level 1, I'm not going to really persuade them into a coaching package. They don't even know there's anything wrong with their life. And I mean, I say that like bluntly. That not that there's something wrong with their life, but that their life could be so much better if they woke the fuck up. That's the type of person I'm talking to. So it's like, if I'm trying to say, hey, you should sign up for a life coach, and they'd be like, well, why would I do that? Dude, the fuck do you know? It's like, it's just like, yeah, your life is like, look at you. You're making $35,000 a year, and you're 39 years old, and you're living with your parents. Like, that's not exactly crushing it, man. Like, you should. So it's like those types of people, I would say, look, if you're interested, here, take a podcast. So I'm not even going to get those people calling me most of the time, which is great. I don't want to talk to those people. What I do want to reach those people is through some different types of methods. So I want a podcast to run across them. I want them to see an inspirational post. I want them to see a quote that they like. That's how I want to connect with those people. I'm not going to be working with them on some type of coaching call, because they're not even going to want a coaching call. They don't get it. So I'm kind of assessing that. So I say, here, check out my podcast, whatever. And those are the types of things I'm trying to do. Same with level 2, right? So level 2 is the stories. I'm going to give them a YouTube video. I'm going to show them clips, motivational videos. I'm going to tell them stories. I'm going to try to get them to an event, that kind of thing. I'm going to say, here, listen to my podcast. And over time, those people listen to my podcast for a while. And then they're like, wow, dude, you just totally woke me up. I'm ready to go. And then you can get them on a call. So when I'm talking to them, I'm trying to figure out what level they are. Like, what are your ambition levels? What do you want to do with your life? And that's just like, now that you've assessed the level of awareness that they're at, the question is, what are your ambitions? So there's a huge range of what an ambition looks like. So me, I want to go and make blockbuster films. Most people would say that Hollywood is arguably the most competitive business in the world. And and then being at the top of that to where you could create some type of masterpiece on a large budget would be arguably the most competitive piece of Hollywood. Therefore, that's a very ambitious goal. Where I talk to some people and their goal is like, I just want to retire by 39 years old. So I would say that those have a huge range in ambitions. Like, okay, retiring at 39 years old is not wildly ambitious to me, because you just kind of calculate what your method of income is. Well, everything. We can figure out how we can get you to retire at 39 years old. So I'm trying to figure that out, because if I'm going to recommend you being an entrepreneur, starting a business, or I'm going to recommend you going out and reaching out to somebody really important, or I'm going to recommend you writing a book, or what, your strategy is totally dictated on how big of a goal you're trying to accomplish, right? Because if you have something that's just a small goal, it might be very easy to do while you're working your full-time job. Like the dude that wants to just retire at 39 years old, who's working as an engineer, He might, and his wife is a nurse and they just have a happy family with 2 kids, and his goal is to retire at 39. It's like he knows that that's still like, oh, other people don't think you can do that. You can retire at 39 years old. But really, he could be working his full-time job and just get a little bit of a supplementary income if he's in his mid-20s to retire at 39 years old. It's just not that difficult of a strategy. But so I would recommend, why don't you try being a corporatepreneur? Why don't you try and invest in like some real estate? But you can keep your job. You don't have to just like quit your job, man, and just go chase your dream. Your dream is to retire at 39 years old. You might really like being an engineer. Your wife might really like being a nurse. You might really help a lot. You might help a lot of people that way. You might be really good at it and you're very passionate about it. And it's a very marketable skill. Those are jobs that still need to be satisfied. And it's like, who am I to tell you that that's not where you're going? Now, if you've done, this is assuming you've done the internal work to know what you're truly passionate about and to really explore what your true ambitions are. So this is a huge caveat disclaimer, is that you've done some inner work on yourself to figure out what those ambitions are. But for the most part, people have thought about it a little bit. And I've had a client I've been working with for 3.5 months and starting to find out that what they thought they were laser focused on isn't necessarily what they're really ambitious about. So, it does happen to change, but that's what I'm trying to assess on the call, is I'm trying to figure out what are your ambition levels, number one, because that's going to change your strategy. Does this make sense? Why I may recommend someone being a corporatepreneur, or why I might recommend someone being an entrepreneur, or maybe they don't do either. Someone might say, I want to be CEO of my company. So a very good friend of mine wants to be, she's young, she's hungry, she's ambitious. She works for a financial company on Wall Street, and she really wants to be a CFO. That's her goal with that company that she's working on. That's still pretty damn ambitious. And it's the corporate route. This is like, I just think the line between corporate and entrepreneur is so blurry. It's just like, it's business, it's achievement, it's climbing a hierarchy. It's just a different way of going about it based on your own personality, your skills, your attributes, what's going on in your ambition levels and what the strategy is. So your strategy is always going to change based on the person. So first, what I'm doing, I'm assessing your ambition levels. What can you take? Like where do you really want to go? Like how big of a thinker are you? Because some people might not even have that crazy of an ambition and they might not want to think that big. They might be very satisfied with something smaller. I'll challenge them and see how big they can go. But I'm telling you, there are people that are meant to be role players and there are people that are meant to do something crazy, but there's all people that are meant to stay in alignment with their purpose. So my goal is to figure out what do they think that purpose is and how do I get them there? So number one, figuring out the goals and ambition levels. Number two is I'm trying to assess some type of timeline between when they want to accomplish that goal. So like for me, do I want to make movies before I'm dead? Or do I want to make movies in my late 40s? Or do I want to be in Hollywood in the next 7 months? That's going to totally change my strategy, is my timeline that I want to give myself. And I encourage you guys, if you want to figure out what your timeline is meditate on that timeline. Like really think about it. How old are you in your vision for yourself? Do you have children? What kind of car are you driving? What does your house look like? I just went through this exercise with my client on Friday, and it was just, take a second, think about it, sit there for 5 minutes and paint the picture. This is a blank canvas in front of you of your life. And I want you to pick a very specific point in your life, what you're doing. Go on a daily, 15 years from now, what are you doing? 10 years from now, 15 years, 20 years from now, 25 years from now. What are you doing? And I want you to figure out the timeline of these different ambitions, because your timeline is going to totally change your strategy. So the first thing I'm trying to do is, what is your ambition? What's your big goal? What's the wild thing you're doing? The second thing is, how much time do we have to get there? So if you tell me, AJ, I want to be a multimillionaire by the time I am 30 years old, and you're currently 27, that gives us 3 years. That's going to totally change our strategy. It is not impossible, but it is going to limit things to what we can do. So if we're going off of first thing we'd look at is, okay, what have other people done? How many people have made several $1 million in three years? Lots of people. Okay, so what have they done? And we'd investigate the industries that they're in. We'd investigate the type of solutions that they brought forward, and we'd start to look at those. And that would dictate the strategy. If that's I'm telling you, this is, when I'm talking about a goal, I'm not just talking about we're going to write this stuff down in this nice journal where it's got this goal section at the top and it's really cool. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you will give up anything in your life to get to this goal. You will stop everything else in pursuit of this goal. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about setting goals. I'm talking about isolating the world in pursuit of this goal. You have like laser focus trying to get this goal. That's what I'm talking about. Not just like, I write it down in my journal. It's a goal. No, that's not a fucking goal. A goal is something you are willing to give up everything else to pursue. That's how serious you got to get about it. If you're serious about achieving these goals, you got to get intense. You got to get crazy about these goals. That's what I'm talking about. So let's figure out what those goals are. Let's figure out the timeline. The third one is going to dictate the strategy is your risk tolerance. I'm trying to assess what is your risk tolerance. Okay, because your risk tolerance is going to change what we do with your money, what we do with your time, what we do with your lifestyle, what you're willing to risk in your life, in your lifestyle. Because you can lose all your money, but like, what are you really willing to risk? You know, Marissa and I found out very quickly that, you know, if we can lose money or whatever, but she will not sacrifice her health. Absolutely not. Which means you got to have a little bit of money so you can sustain some type of high quality food sources, or you got to get really good at fishing and gardening. Really. And I mean, you don't need money. You just gotta be really good at fishing and gardening if you want really high quality food sources. Or I can go out and freaking hunt for it with my spear and bow and arrow because I'm just a man, you know. But it's just like, what is the real target you're trying to hit? And how much risk are you willing to sacrifice? So I'm trying to gain your risk tolerance. Are you risk averse? Are you risk seeking? So some of you guys are like, I'm in for a thrill. I'd ride. Like my uncle, the Sippy River Drifter, you guys see him. He was like a wild entrepreneur his whole life. And just, he would rather sleep in his car and panhandle than ask for hand-me-outs from his parents or his family or anybody like that. That's just his life, man. You know, he's willing to go to the bottom in pursuit of what he wants. That's what he wants to do. So like, that is a very different gut for risk. Like, what is your gut? What can your gut take? You know, it's like in Rocky and boxing, how many punches can you take? They call that your chin. Like, what's your chin look like in business? How many punches can you really take? And I don't want you to like get all pumped up and say, oh, I could take it all. It's like, do a real honest risk assessment of yourself. How much can you really take? Because there's like a point, it's just like the freaking Matrix. Like when you go in, you're going all in and there's no going back, especially when you start to put yourself out there on social media, especially when you start to put yourself out there in written books and you're starting to like really throw out opinions, and especially for you guys that are like going into something maybe political, or you might be going somewhere religious, or you might be going into these things that just trigger people and piss them off. And like, it's just going into a fight. So you got to figure out, can you really handle the risk that's coming? And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about risk to what people think about you. I'm talking about risk to what you feel like. I'm talking about how uncomfortable you can get, how many people are talking, like, you know, how many people, if you're going to be a Hollywood actor, you want to go be a Hollywood actor or whatever, and you get the fame, you got to get all the fame that comes with it. You got to get the people that are taking pictures of you while you're on the damn shitter. That's the kind of life that you're going to be getting when you decide to go that way. So I'm trying to assess your risk tolerance. I'll give you some examples to talk about this. Okay, let's say someone for the first one, they have low ambition. Okay, so generally low ambition. And I'm talking about relative to just what I hear. Okay, if some guy says, I want to build some type of nuclear environmental sustainability complex on Mars, high ambition. Someone says, I want to retire in my 40s with a family and some health insurance. I would say that's low ambition. And let's say I've challenged their ambition and that's where they feel comfortable. And that's really where they feel pulled to their God-given purpose. Okay, so they're low ambition. Let's assess their timeline. Let's say it's a long timeline. They have some time. They got until their 40s to retire. And let's say what their risk tolerance is. They got low risk tolerance. That means that they cannot handle risk very well. They want it to be stable. They want it to be secure. You guys probably know a lot of people like this. And we can challenge those people and we can poke holes in it. We can try to stretch them and grow them, but we can't make them do anything. We have to grow them at the pace that they want to grow at. Okay, that's important to understand. You got to grow them at the pace that they want to grow at. So this person, you might recommend, why don't you get a corporate job with a high income? How do you start to work at your corporate job? How do you start to climb that ladder? So I work with people in corporate setting all the time. How do you climb that ladder? That could be that is a whole strategy in and of itself. being able to maneuver in a corporate environment, being able to really rock and roll and get pays and get promotions on schedule, and being able to kiss ass with the right people and being able to network and schmooze. It's no different than being an entrepreneurial thing. It's just usually you're limited to that. Instead of going to like your little local meetups as an entrepreneur is going to do, you're going to go to your company meetups. You're going to try to meet with the big wigs and kiss some ass. I mean, that's what you're going to try to do. So it's like, that would mean that would go into the strategy. You might want to work a corporate job. You might want to start looking at what is your inventory of solutions to make yourself more valuable in that environment. So that's the kind of strategy you might recommend for that person. So they, oh, AJ, how can you recommend going corporate? Don't you talk about following your dreams and all that? That is their dream, guy. That could be their dream. Their dream is to retire at 45 years old because their real passion is that they want to go and be a missionary from 45 until 55 years old. That might be the strategy for them. And like I said, I'm trying to assess a strategy for somebody within 20 minutes or 30 minutes on a call. But once we're clients and we can get going, we can really get in deep with what that strategy looks like. But I'm trying to assess that so I can put them in the right position. Now, let's go to the flip side. Let's go to you guys, the people that you guys are probably more like. High ambition, short timeline, high risk tolerance, right? This is the type of person you're going to recommend. Why don't we start a business? Start a nonprofit. Why don't we do this now? Why wait around? Because we have a short timeline according to your own expectation. According to your own expectations, you got a short timeline. So we got to figure out how we can compress this. So this means the risk is going to go up, but that's okay. You guys are risk tolerant. You know what comes with the game. If you start a business, it could fail. That you could humiliate yourself. That all these things could happen. So we got to go do the inner work to brace you for this. I call that personal insurance, right? It's about doing all the inner work so that when shame could hit you, you've got the freaking shield to deal with it. Because sometimes when you really put yourself out there and you really know and you're really confident about something and it just hits you, it can be accompanied by shame. And if you guys haven't experienced shame yet, you know that it can be just devastating to what you do, and it can slow you down. It can stop you. It can just really put you down. And you got to be able to deal with that inner struggle because the risk is there. So like if you have a high risk tolerance, I'm not just looking at if you run out of money, what happens? I'm looking at what is your psyche going to do if this thing goes south? I'm looking at how are you going to emotionally handle this? Is your wife or your husband going to leave you if this goes bad? What's going to happen? Seriously, because there's just all these things you don't think about. You got to think about what does rock bottom really look like for you, and what's going to happen when you get there. And I believe everybody can handle that, and everybody can come out of that freaking strong. But it's really hard, and you got to do that work on yourself, and you got to listen to podcasts like this, and you got to really get yourself into a strong position mentally. And you got to understand that you are in control at all times and that you can only control what's in front of you. And that's where I'm assessing. So I say, hey, okay, now maybe you can start a business. We can go try something out. You're in your 20s. You got a lot of risk. Like just start trying shit out. Because like that's the thing. Like most early 20-year-olds, when they call me and they're just like, hey, I want to make movies, but then I also really want to start this like really cool vegan lemonade company. And it's just awesome. And it's what I'm really passionate about, but I want to do it in Europe because I still want to travel all the time. And then I also really want to like be a billionaire and then have 6-pack abs, but also run like a 4-3-40 and bench press 285 pounds 25 times and then go to the NFL. And I'm just like, oh, okay, my God. This is a guy that just needs to try some shit out. Like you need to go just try some stuff. And that's okay. Because it's going to take some time to get like hyper focused. You're going to get FOMO. That's like the number one thing that I see people who like, I always talk about talking to you're helping and coaching and helping the people that were you like 5 or 6 years ago. That was me 5 or 6 years ago. I was just the guy I just described. It's almost like that's why it came so quickly to me. It's because that was me. Right. And it's just like, okay, I really want to, except for the vegan lemonade thing. I don't know where that came from. But anyway, that's where, these types of people that are like scatterbrained, they don't know what to do. It's like, you got to just start to try stuff because trial and error is okay. And it does waste energy and it does waste resources. But what the one resource you have is you're young. And it might not seem young because you got a really short timeline that you gave yourself. But I'm telling you, if you don't start to like get some of that shit out of you, you're going to start to get like FOMO. You're going to be like, oh, but what if I would have done the European vegan thing and now I'm in Hollywood? You're just gonna be like, dude, just try it. Just try some things and you're going to start to see which ones really start to feel like you're in your sweet spot. And once you're in that sweet spot, then now it's time to go like laser focus into it. Now, there are a lot of people that come out of school or right out of college or whatever, and they know exactly what they want to do the rest of their life. And they had like really meditated on it. And they've probably like woken up a lot earlier and done done some of the early, the internal work and gotten a huge laser focus on what they want to do. There are people like that. But I just think most of the 22 girls that call me just end up being the same guy that I was. They're just like all over the place. So it's like, those are the people that need to go try some stuff. And if you haven't tried stuff yet, this is the youngest you're going to be, people, right now. To this, like, well, the second you're listening to it, okay, you're older now. This is the youngest you're going to be. Start trying that stuff out now, especially if you can handle the risk that comes with it. But if you've done the internal work on yourself and you've already kind of qualified your ambition level and you know exactly what you really want, well, then it's just about getting as dialed in as possible and as focused as possible. Because the more power you have and focus, the more concentration you're going to have to break through that wall. Just like when you're picking ice, right? You don't pick ice by scraping it side to side. You pick it by taking something very sharp and going directly through it, because you're trying to create as much pressure in one spot to go through it. That's the same thing you're going to try to do in your goals. You want to find the most pressure in a specific spot that you can deliver, as much focus as possible. Energy is energy. It doesn't matter if it's mental. It doesn't matter if it's invisible. It doesn't matter if it's physical in the physical world. Energy is energy, and with focus comes the most concentration, so you can get as tightly grouped around something as you can. So that's some tidbits to you guys that are trying to discuss and coach people and try to figure out what's going on. But I wanted to bring some context to that, because like, how many people do you know that are just like, I mean, I was getting a lot of hate for this. I'm like, geez, dude, like, you're a traitor. You said that you could be corporate. I'm like, yeah, you can be corporate. There's a lot of corporate people that are super successful and they love it. Some people are making multiple six figures corporate. A lot of entrepreneurs I know can say they're entrepreneurs, but they don't make multiple six figures and they're not happy. They don't get vacation. They're working 80 to 100 hours a week. Their business just does okay their whole life, and then they just kind of retire it or give it to their kids, or sometimes they just sell it for a loss or it dies. I mean, it's just like that. These are facts. And some people, especially you guys listening to this, you guys are in that that 3% of people that can handle the risk that might come with starting a business. So that's good. That's where it's like, we got to stick together on this shit and rock and roll. So I'm not giving up on anybody. I'm an objective source here. When I'm coaching someone, I don't care if, they agree with me politically or whatever. I'm trying to get them to the position. Like, let's say they have a total opposite political party views as me and they say they want to be president. I would try to get them to be president, because that's more important to me, to satisfy my clients' ambitions, especially if that's a divine direction. Huge distinction, peeps. Divine direction, meaning coming from God. If I believe that this is coming from God, coming from a great place, and this is what they're meant to do, then I am doing God's work to get them there. Okay? If I don't think that it's coming from a place of love, that it's coming from a divine place, that it's inspired with some type of, Christian value, well, then sometimes I might not take it on, or I might not support it. Like if someone said, hey, I want to be the world's greatest Satanist, AJ, I would say, I'm probably not going to coach you. I mean, that's what it is. I'm not gonna coach a Satanist, but I'm gonna try to assess what this person's divine direction is, and we're gonna try to get there as fast as humanly possible. That's my goal for these people. So yeah, sometimes that could be corporate. I hate to say it, but most of the time, people have so much more that they're willing to give, and after you do a little bit of work with them, you start to realize that the ambition that they originally told you isn't really true. They just didn't realize that they could be that ambitious. They were allowed to be that ambitious. A lot of times people are like, wait, I'm allowed to say I want to be an actor. I'm allowed to say that I want to be a professional singer or a professional skater or a professional football player or a professional this or that. It's like, yeah, you're allowed to say that. That's one of your ambitions. Now let's vet that through. Let's find out if that's really something. Because if you don't have the strengths to get there, then it's still, I don't know if that's going to be your divine purpose. Because God gives you a set of strengths. He gives you some things that really are in the top 1% of the 1%. When we find out what those things are, coupled with what you're passionate about, and if that is marketable, well, now we're in the business. Quite literally, we are in business. But we got to find out what those things are. And that takes some discussion, takes some thought. Some of you guys could do that work on your own through your own meditations or talking to people or working with others or working with a different coach. But that's what you should be aiming for, is that sweet spot. What does that look like? What are my strengths? What am I passionate about? And what is marketable? That sweet spot. What is all three of those together? And then you have the beginnings of a business. And I say the beginnings of a business because that's just when you decide what industry you want to narrow it down to, or what you want to start doing with your time more than anything. And now, I mean, starting a business isn't easy, and there's a lot that goes into it. So that's kind of where the hard part starts. But that's why I say you got the beginnings of a business. If you can do that inner work on yourself. Most people don't do that, and then they die. And then that sucks because there's so much left on the field. You know, it's just like a game where you got half your players that just leave the game on the field, and it's like, well, what the score could have been? How could the season have gone if they would have all tried, all would have played? What could humanity look like today if everybody gave it their all in their life? Like, how much better could the world be right now if people got to be their ideal selves? I mean, think about that. If we stopped trying to negate the idea that I don't need to work on myself, instead I'm going to try to do some kind of false altruistic statement for the sake of the collective. And that's just a wordy way of saying, I'm just going to try to change the world without changing myself. I think that that's ignorant. I think you need to change yourself. You need to become the best version of you. And by being the best version of you, you will change the world. That's what I believe. And I think that that's the right way to think about it, is you got to look at the self. It's the same thing we see today. And we did a Bible study on, why there's violence and why there's evil and these mass shootings and all sorts of this stuff that's going on in the world. It's like, why is all this stuff happening? It's because we're crediting all these other people. We're saying that this person came from a troubled background, that they had bad parenting, that they had they were in a bad neighborhood, or they did this and that. And we're taking the responsibility off of the individual. And we got to realize, left to your own human nature, people do bad things. And that's kind of a hard concept, I guess. It's a Hobbesian kind of viewpoint that I have on things. It's also a Christian viewpoint that I think we're inherently sinful. But I mean, look at little kids. I was just thinking about this today, about how, when I was a little kid, I was a bully to people all the time. And I was really mean. But then there was also kids that were really mean to me. And I'm just like, why are little kids so damn mean to each other? And then I get in high school and I was kind of a dick and I was just so mean to people. And then I'm just like, why are little kids in high school, why are they all just so mean to each other? It's because they just haven't matured into people and established some type of morality for themselves. And I think by definition, and this goes into a long kind of winded philosophical discussion that I'm going to get away from, but by definition, I think that moral law has to be given by somebody, a creator. And I think that people don't have that until they wake up to it in some way. And that's why if we keep crediting all these evil people or all the evil around the people instead of the people, that they are just inherently flawed, we need to look at ourselves to prevent the evil from coming out of us. And we also need to allow the good to come through us to prevent evil in the world. I think that the answer to the collective is through the individual. Working on yourself is going to save the world, not working on the world. And just think about that for a second. If every single person here decided that they were going to just start working on themselves to be the best version of themselves, to hold a moral high ground, to come from a place of love, to seek wisdom, to be disciplined. If we started to do all those things individually and work on those things individually, the entire collective would take care of itself. This is what the world is missing. It's missing messages and thoughts like this. So I encourage you guys, please, to go out there and work on yourself, become a just personal growth and development guru. Build your morality, build your value system, do things for the good of others. If you're trying to build wealth, you should be building wealth so you can give to abundance, so you can give in abundance, so you can be charitable, so you can be extremely generous. You shouldn't be building wealth just so you can go piss it away on expensive luxury cars or whatever. And I mean, that's fine if you have the money to support those lifestyle decisions, but you should also be looking at how generous you can be. You should be doing it so you can change the world, but you're doing it through yourself, through your contribution. You can't control anything other than how you individually react to the world. I mean, just that's all you can really do. So when you start to get your own ducks in a row, you're going to be a force to reckon with. When your values are strong, when your skills are strong, when your ambitions are strong, when your knowledge and attributes are strong, then you are going to be a force to reckon with out there. So that's why I just believe so strongly in the personal growth and development. Personal growth and development. Not all you guys need to do this. No, you need to do this. Not everybody else needs to do this. You need to do this. I need to do this. I'm trying to do this stuff every day, and I'm sharing it with you because I think this message needs to be heard. I'm not off the hook. I'm not off the hook. I got to do this stuff every day too. My wife keeps me in check all the time. You missed church on Sunday. It's like, did you pray today? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you eat right? We keep each other accountable. Marissa and I keep each other accountable to that lifestyle. So I encourage you guys, please start to work on yourselves. Start to work on yourselves and your immediate people around you, because that's how you're going to change the collective. And I think that when you start to understand what those divine ambitions are within yourself, you're going to start to figure out what the world's really possible, like what the world can really do. When you can figure out what you can really do, imagine if everybody did that. So we're going to slowly try to wake up the world. That's my call to action for you guys. Let's wake up the world, because it's going to be a long process, but it can't happen until you decide to do these things today. So what are your goals? What does that timeline look like? What is the risk you're willing to give up to become that ideal version of yourself? Chasing that person. Who are you going to become today? How are you going to act consistent with that person every single day? Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Once again, my name's Aaron Armstrong. You can follow me on AaronJArmstrong.com. You can go to Instagram at AaronArmstrong33. And you can check out our retreat that we are hosting on the beautiful island of St. Lucia. It's a retreat. It is going to be a business vacation. Yes, I said those two things in the same exact sentence, a business vacation, because that's how we roll. We mix work and play in this world. That's how it should go. And I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. I'm going to teach you guys, if you're an entrepreneur, if you are a wantrepreneur. What's a wantrepreneur? Someone that thinks they want to start a business, but they don't know what to do, where to start. That's my bread and butter. Let's get you there. Let's figure out what your divine ambitions really are. How do we really start to work with that? Let's get you the business fundamentals so that you can take like years of learning off of the curve. If you're an idiot like me and try to do everything yourself because you think you know everything, that costs a lot of money. And I'm trying to save you guys the money. So I'm basically giving all the information that I would have given myself years ago of how to start a business and how to do it right. If you're not a business owner, I've designed this curriculum specifically so that every single one of you guys can use this in your life. So if you just cut the word business out and put your name, it's every single one of these exercises, and the whole program is 100% applicable. That's how I designed this seminar retreat. So it's going to be in St. Lucia. It's going to be May of 2020, and it's going to be at the Royalton Resort. It's going to be an awesome experience, guys. We also do excursions and adventures that we're going to be hosting with our wonderful tour guide, JoJo's St. Lucian Adventures. And JoJo is a guy that I mentored years ago, and now he's grown into his own business. And it's just awesome coming full circle about how we can now work together again. Wonderful story. I encourage you guys to listen to. I think I've got that on my Facebook page. So with that said, my friends, my dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to this show. Every day I'm grateful that you guys continue to listen, that you're giving me your undivided attention to share with you how together we can change the world. That's really where it starts. How do we do it today? Whenever you're listening to this, what can you do? If you're listening to this at night, what can you do tomorrow? If you're listening to this in the morning, what can we do today? How do we change the world today? And you do it by figuring out how I can stay consistent with that ideal version of me, that I'm still on course with my divine ambitions. That's how we change the world, my friends. That's how we do it. So with that said, folks, thank you once again for listening today. I'm so forever grateful for my listeners. Follow me at AaronJArmstrong.com, AaronArmstrong33 on Instagram. Thank you so much. Be somebody. I'm out. What's up, everybody? This is your host, AJ Armstrong. You can follow me on Instagram at AaronArmstrong33. That's Aaron Armstrong 33, or you can go to my website, aaronjarmstrong.com. Thanks so much for listening through to the end. I wanted to also introduce you guys to our Facebook community. So you can go to Winners Waltz Worldviews on Facebook, and it's a group where we can offer, different opportunities for you guys to ask questions. If you have a Q&A or something in your business or a challenge in your life that you want to bring up, that's the community to ask it. And then I can also share that with all of our listeners on our social media platforms. The final thing I wanted to share with you guys is something that Marissa and I have been so excited for. It's been really chomping at me to freaking tell you guys. And it's our Personal Growth Ventures Retreat. So our Personal Growth Ventures Retreat is going to be located on the island of St. Lucia. It's going to be a business seminar combined with personal growth and development. And we're also adding in something nobody else has ever done in a seminar that I've heard of. And that's fitness and adventure. So these are the things that are going to help push us to our limits. It's going to help us break through our fears. And these adventures are going to be one of a kind. If you want to find out more about what our adventures entail, what's going to be involved in the education session, and where this is all going to be happening and when, you can go to our website, personalgrowthventures.com. That's personalgrowthventures.com. It's also going to be located in the show notes. So with that said, guys, thanks so much for listening through to the end. Once again, go be somebody.